both.
You're doing sound. Where do you want me to put Amanda for the story for all ages? What channel do you want me to put her on? And just say like channel 4. Okay.
Okay. Crank that joint on the mic stand.
sorry?
Make any difference.
I'm
You
gonna
missed
set
me.
up blue for up there. Okay. We have volume control on the mic.
There we go.
New mic stand.
Woohoo!
Hopefully won't have this issue.
Yeah, I have a pretty loud voice anyway, so I have to moderate my voice. Could probably go down just a smidge. If we can go down this way.
Right there?
Yeah, how's that? Hello, hello. No, I can't hear that one. That'll be fine. Yeah. Yeah, I can't hear it.
Can you hear it?
I couldn't hear it, but
Oh, there we go.
there we go.
Okay. How about 13 and 14 and 15 and 16?
Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Chattanooga. We are a loving community committed to spreading justice and compassion in the world. Our minister, the Reverend Mandy Goheen, is taking a Sunday out of the pulpit, but acting as our worship associate to allow me the honor of preaching to you. So thank you, Mandy. My name is Amanda Schuber. I am the current interim director of religious education and the former ministerial intern here in Chattanooga. And I've been waiting for 2 years, thanks COVID, to preach in person to you. As this is the second Sunday of the month, it is an intergenerational service, meaning that our children, with all their joyful noises and energetic expressions, will be staying upstairs with us today. If you are a guest, I hope that you will join us after service for coffee and conversation. Now I'm going to flip our order of service around just a bit, and we're going to begin with our chalice lighting today. Mandy's going to light our chalice. And the chalice lighting words are in your order of service if you will join me in saying them. In the light of truth and the warmth of love, we gather to seek, to sustain, and to share. And our opening words this morning come from Leslie Hazelton, from Agnostic, a Spiritual Manifesto. A classic Zen exercise is the inso. So if the kids will watch me, you can kind of see. An inso is a circle that you draw with one stroke. You don't pick up your pen or your paint at all. Reverend Mandy's going to kind of give us an example. And you leave it open at the top. It's a single fluid brush stroke. It's close to perfect, but never there. Perfection is what you want. You can produce that anytime by using a compass or computer, but the inso defies such mechanistic precision. Indeed, it's often incomplete, left slightly open as though an invitation to everything beyond it. And each one is different, never the same circle twice. You can see the hairs of the brush if you drag the ink on the paper, trace the fluidity of the moment when the stillness of meditation was released in one rapid stroke. You can sense the calm, the grace of the artist. The beauty of the Zen circle lies precisely, or maybe more precisely, imprecisely, in its imperfection. That is what speaks to us and draws us in. A perfect circle, it's uninteresting. A closed system containing nothing, while an imperfect one vibrates with warmth. Now, as we listen to our opening song, For All That Is Our Life, I invite our young friends and our young friends at heart to come forward and quickly paint your own inso circle with the supplies up here. And remember, the inso is a quick brush stroke to make an almost circle. We can leave that circle open to allow more things to come in. And when you've finished your inso, I want you to have a seat up here at the front so that we can listen to our story afterwards. friends. How are you today? I love your circles. Can I see them? Can you show me your circles?
Here's mine. I'm kidding.
Oh, goodness. Oh, wow, I love that. Ah, the green is magnificent. And these are so beautiful. I love how open they are. That's awesome. It's hard to think of a circle being open, isn't it? Right? We think of circles. It does not really a circle, but this is called an enso circle. But I want to read you a book today called The Circles All Around Us, and it's written by Brad Montague, and he's not a Unitarian Universalist yet, but I think if he came and visited us, he would probably find that we're kind of his people. So let's see, and the illustrations are by Christy Montague, his wife. I think she's probably a Unitarian as well. So we begin by drawing a circle on the ground along each shoe. So what would that look like if you drew it around you right now? What would that look like? Could you show me with your fingers if you drew all the way around your body? Yeah. Is it a big circle or a little circle?
Big.
It's sort of big. Is it as big as my circle?
No.
No, it's not. Yeah. Is yours bigger than mine? No? Okay. Yeah. Fantastic. So it's a little small circle, a safe little place for just one person. Nobody in this circle but you. And you could keep that circle closed to everyone but yourself. But that would be a little like a library with just one book on the shelf. Would you like a library that just had one book?
No, unless the book went on forever.
Unless the book went on forever. I kind of like that idea. That's like the never-ending book. That's fantastic. There's a movie called The Never-Ending Story. I'm sure your parents will show it to you one day. So let's draw a bigger circle for you and your family to share. So it's going to be bigger, right?
Yeah.
Because we got our family in there. Now you see what all can happen in a circle full of care. What's happened? They've all come in, huh? Yeah, they all came in. We've welcomed in Granny Dot and Papa Bit and Uncle Hank and Barkley and new cousins and great granny. It becomes a happier circle as more loved ones come to stay. And wouldn't it be even better if all your friends could come and play? I like a good play date, right? So he's creating circles that have all his friends in it too. So you stretch and draw your circle even bigger than it's been and let a few more people you know that they're welcome to come in. We like people to come into our circles, don't we? Yeah. Makes our circles more interesting. In the circles all around us, everywhere that we go, there's a difference we can make and a love that we can all show. See, the circles are doing nice things for people. We do that in our circles, don't we? We do nice things for others, for our neighbors and our family. Yet there are still so many outside the circle who are different in all they do. So see all these different languages. They say hello. So there's hola, salam. What's the German for hello? Hallo? Guten Tag? Is that right? I don't know. Yeah. So all kinds of ways that we can say hello, right?
Hola.
Hola. Though it feels slightly uncomfortable, we draw bigger circles for them too. So we're willing to let different people in that we may not know so well, right? We're going to let them come in. Now, it doesn't mean the circle is easy. It can get harder the more that we share, right? Sometimes because I'm team cake and I'm team pie, I'm really outgoing and maybe I'm really quiet and shy. So when we add more people in, things become a little more complicated, doesn't it? It does rhyme. But wonderful things can happen when love is known and felt everywhere. They have friendship donuts. I know, right? Friendship donuts. I would totally be happy with a friendship donut right now. I should have brought donuts. If I'd thought about it, I would have. As time passes, our eyes open and we see others we really care for. And that's when we ask ourselves, well, what's this circle really there for? So why do we draw circles in the first place? So let's create bigger circles all around us for the rest of our days. Let our caring ripple out in a million different ways. In the circles all around us, everywhere that we go, there's a difference we can make and a love that we can all show. This is my favorite circle. As our circles grow and grow, and we watch them wonder-eyed, remember, the first circle started with just the love that you hold inside. So we have lots of circles in our life. What kind of circles do we have in our lives? You have your circle. What about, do we have a family circle? Yeah. And a friend circle. What else? What other kind of circle? Where are you right now? You are in a circle. You're in a community circle.
Wait, what about strangers?
Sometimes. What about David?
What about how the earth circle?
We have an earth circle. That's right. What about a church circle? Maybe a school one. We've got all kinds of these great circles that encompass all kinds of different people, right, that are part of our lives, and maybe even four-legged friends that are part of my lives, right? So I'm going to be up here talking about circles and clay. That's why you've got the clay, so you can play with the clay, because that's a lot of fun. Even adults, I'll tell you a secret, the adults love the clay as much as you do, I promise. They're out there playing with it. Some of them are just dying to play with it, but they haven't opened it yet. So we can tell them they can open their clay and play with it if they want. But while I'm talking, I have some paper over here and some crayons. And I'd like to invite you to grab a piece of paper and grab a couple crayons. And I want you to think about, if you're interested, in drawing the circles that are in your life. Okay? And after the service, I would love to hear about those circles. Think you want to do that? And if you're not into drawing today, which I totally understand sometimes happens, I have other stuff. You can grab a few of these and take them back to your seat and kind of hang out with them and see what comes. All right? All right, so I'm going to invite you to come up. The paper's right there, and there's some crayons. So grab a piece of paper and some crayons real quick. And if there are any grown people who want to do the same, you are welcome. Yeah. And I'm going to grab a piece of it. Oh, Veda, you going to come up and get one for me? Awesome.
Okay. What are we doing?
You can draw the circles that occupy your life. What are the circles that are in your life? Who's in those circles? So you can get a few crayons and a few pieces of paper, or you can get some of the busy box, whichever. And you can either go back to your seat or you can sit up here in front. You're not going to bother me. Thank you. All right. We're going to see how I do. Can you hear me with this one? Yes, no. No, we cannot hear me with this one. Now we can. No, maybe?
I don't know.
You don't know? I don't know either. Technology is a great thing. All right. We appreciate, oh, there we go. We appreciate our tech folks so much for working through these sort of things. Now is the time in our service where we take a few moments of meditation. And some of us have quiet meditation. Some of us had sitting or walking meditation. I find that for children and youth, meditation comes in the form of art and that kind of thing. So we're happy to have our kids down here. So Reverend Mandy, if you would ring the bell for us when it's time to sort of come back from our meditation. Thank you. So in our services, we do what's called a candle lighting. And this is where, as a community, we come forward, and if there's something in our heart that we're excited about or nervous about or scared about or upset about, we light a candle. And that lets everyone know that something is in our heart. And so now is the time in which we do our candle lighting. I invite you to come forward in the spirit of community and light a candle. Yeah, let's just scoot back just a little bit, guys. Scoot over this way just a little bit.
So folks can come through the middle.
Yeah, there we go. Spirit of life and love, we know that our world is bound in turmoil and strife. We know that there are people hurting in our circles today. So we hold all the people in our world, both here and afar. Amen and blessed be. Now it all started simply enough. I needed a 3-hour class to round out my schedule for my last year at the university. And this wouldn't have been a really big deal, except that I had been in college a while. and I had exhausted the list of elective classes that I was even remotely interested in taking. There had been a whole gauntlet of theater classes, a few in anthropology, a really fun one about the methods of Jim Henson, and a whole host of others. And while walking across campus on a beautiful summer afternoon, I randomly stumbled upon a solution to my scheduling problem. And I found what I would eventually come to regard as a meditative and deeply spiritual outlet. Now, when I tell you I stumbled, I mean I literally tripped over the curb. And just outside of the kiln room, I sat there wondering if anyone had seen me. And while I sat there hoping that no one saw me, I heard the music blasting from the open doors of the Ceramic Arts building. Dusting myself off, I peeked in, and I saw a short man with thinning hair, dirty jeans, and a tattered Pink Floyd t-shirt sitting at the wheel, making clay dance with the slightest movements of his hands. I watched him for a really long time, mesmerized by the way he would manipulate the clay into a closed vessel in one moment, only to open it back up again with a wide brim in the next, changing the shape, the depth, the feeling of the piece with each subtle motion. And then, without warning, after creating a beautiful cup with a perfect lip, bulbous on the bottom and tapered gently to the rim, he slowed the wheel and with one finger collapsed the whole thing down into a sticky blob. To my surprise, I had feelings about what had just happened. I was sad to see the cup destroyed and confused as to why he would put so much effort into it just to deconstruct it on what felt like a whim. I found I was even a little bit angry, like I had had a moment of joy and awe stolen from me, despite my intrusion on his moment. I must have gasped or perhaps let out a heavy sigh in exasperation because he looked up at me, and without hesitation, he reached down and then extended a ball of clay towards me. I didn't know it then, but that moment of connection, that moment of reaching out with an invitation to not only come into a space, but to become part of a community, well, that would change the way I think about life. That first ball of clay would lead me to a love of visual arts, a spiritual awakening, a community that I didn't even know I was missing, and a whole lot of fun. Now, we define community as a group of like-minded people, but really when you break it down, communities are much more. They're more like a feeling than anything else. There's comfort and ownership. We claim our various communities with pride and conviction. We seek them out in our joy and in our sadness, and we will fiercely protect them when we fear that they are under threat. Now, the roles that we claim in our communities and our circles are unique to each one of us. And just like our family circles, we may occupy the role of protector. Maybe we're the pleasers, the troublemakers, caretakers, mascots, even a few clowns here and there. And these roles become not only familiar, but a core part of our identity and functioning within that particular system. Now, something I know is that clay is a lot like people. It's different, depending on where it came from, what kind of day it is, and who's interacting with it. Now, I didn't expect to be good at creating pottery. I'd never explored the visual arts, and I can't even really draw a respectable stick person. But like I said, I needed a class, and it happened that Ceramics 101 had a few open seats. And on that first day of class, the professor, the same guy at the wheel, gave each of us, well, both of us, there were only two, a softball-sized lump of clay, and he said, you have 1 hour to create something that is essentially you. So we went to work hand building, which is what the kids are doing now, what you might be doing, where you build something out of clay without using the wheel. Now, I can't tell you what I made that day. I honestly don't remember. And that's because what happened next, in looking back at what happened next, it was that moment that was essential to my development as a person and even a future minister. After an hour of studious building, my classmate and I were invited to share an explanation of how our creations embodied our lives. I'm pretty sure I was 20-something, that I waxed poetic about the spiritual nature of clouds or something. But it's what happened next that changed me. The professor balled up both his fists into tight, tight circles and smashed our creations. How would you feel if someone smashed your creation, David? That'd be rough, wouldn't it? I'd feel a little rough, and I did. But Lowell, the teacher, he looked up and he said 2 things never to forget. 1, you are different now for having created something. You are always changing. The art you create changes you. And 2, never get too attached to what you think you have created. At any minute, it can and will change. Now, that was the moment that I fell in love with art and all that it would teach me. I know now that my professor was a UU Buddhist with no shortage of lessons to impart. And there would be many such lessons over the next several years as I studied with him. Lessons about the nature of change, community, and the impact of my mere existence in any system. Now, what I love most about clay is the chance to work with it on the wheel. The wheel can be really intimidating. It requires a good bit of physical power mixed with a delicate touch. For instance, you start a bowl by centering the ball on a spinning disc. You dig your elbows into the inside of your thighs if you're short like me, and you force the clay to find the center of the wheel as it spins. Pressing in, you feel for that moment where you achieve the perfect center. Now, I can't tell you exactly what that feels like. It's just right. The clay and the wheel are in balance, and there's no wobble. I think we look for this same balance in our community circles, and often, though not always, it requires that same kind of force, persistence, and a whole lot of patience. We look for that moment where our communities just feel right. Now, once you know that the clay is centered, you create an opening, pushing in and pulling out, creating an expanding circle. And so much of clay is a judgment call. You have to trust yourself to feel it, to know where its limits are. And we experience this feeling in our communities as well, that balance where we all know our place, and we are secure in the understanding that our roles are essential to its functioning. And I won't deny it. That equilibrium is an awesome place to find yourself, especially in communities. It's comfortable, predictable, safe even. There's very little conflict, at least on the surface, and even less change. Everything is humming along nicely. We can go for years on this seemingly well-oiled machine until one day, either by chance or challenge, we find that the circles that we have created, our beloved community, has gotten or been allowed to have been or become far too small. This is where our denomination finds itself right now, our circle of welcome that for many of us has felt very adequate, inviting, and connected, has been critiqued and found to not be as welcoming to those outside, to people of color, to people with accessibility needs, and a whole host of others. And this has been a hard reckoning for many of us because we set out to create a beloved community. We sat at the wheel of our lives and shaped something that we found beautiful, or at the very least, interesting. And perhaps we thought we had achieved the perfect balance, only to be told that we're lacking and in some cases directly resistant to the mere suggestion that it is anything other than what we intended to create. Now, when you sit at that wheel with your clay centered, that first opening created, you take your hands and you feel for the thickness of the wall, one hand inside and the other on the out. And that's when you pull with the slightest of pressure. You pull your hands upward to create height and outward to create width, making space and testing the limits. How big is your circle going to grow? How wide can we make it go? Now, Lowell, my professor, used to tell me that you needed to know the direction you were headed and then be brave enough to let the journey take you where you needed to go. And if clay work has taught me anything, it taught me that my vision was just a very small part of that process. And if I was doing it right, I would only hold a loose idea of what the final product might actually look like. Because you see, I've made bowls, beautiful bowls, only to have them push in around the middle or flare out at the top as I make one last pull. And when I first started on the wheel, I would give an exasperated sigh and just crush the whole thing. Start over, my vision clearly not having been achieved. But as I worked with it more, I've come to understand that these unplanned changes is the clay telling me what it wanted or needed to be, despite my vision. Because in front of me is art, a vessel to be seen, sometimes used. I found it didn't have to look, in fact, it very rarely looked like what I had planned in my head, and yet it was beautiful, joyful, welcoming, or at least interesting. When we are asked to alter our vision of our communities, to widen the circle, to make one last pull upward and outward, not knowing what might happen, it can be far too easy to become frustrated when those communities look or feel different than the vision we had for them. And like clay work, building and expanding our circles of communities requires a deeply personal vulnerability from each one of us. It requires the willingness to trust ourselves and each other, to listen and to change, to allow the circles to become big enough to hold all of us. Now, as our circles widen, they will buckle and flare. There will be wobbles and unexpected outcomes. There will be moments where we stand back and admire all that we have accomplished, and others where we tilt our head a little bit and wonder where we got off center. Then, only then, after putting so much of ourselves into this beautiful creation that we have built, we're faced with the fire of the kiln, or life, where we test what we have created. We load the kiln with a prayer that what we build won't explode under the heat and pressure. There is an assurance inside us that even if it does blow up, or what we build might crack, hopefully we are changed for the better, just for the experience of daring to push the limit of what we thought was possible. After all, there is more clay, or perhaps more grace in our communities. There is another chance to make something bigger and better, more diverse, more colorful, each time we have the courage to invest ourselves in the possibility of pulling that circle a little bit wider. This morning, you were handed a bit of clay as you came in. For those at home, I hope you may at some point today find a bit of dough, a little bit of mud, perhaps some Play-Doh, anything that you can shape. This clay is a metaphorical extension of the clay that my professor handed to me on that summer day. An invitation to create, to recreate, to pull and to push, to see how far it and we will go. This clay is a challenge and a prayer that you may have the courage, the determination, the patience, and the flexibility to widen the circles that you occupy. May you always continue to create beloved community that dares to pull itself wider. Amen, and blessed be. Now is the time in our service where we pull forth our treasures. If you are a visitor this morning, or a guest, we ask that you allow the collection plate to pass you by. The gifts you give to the church work to sustain this beloved community, and we are ever grateful for those gifts. If you would, please join me in our offertory acceptance words that are printed in your order of service. This is our mission to care. We give these gifts freely, committed to our mission to care, create beloved community, awaken hearts and minds, resist injustice and act with compassion, embrace life and care for the earth. To this work, we dedicate our offerings. And now, if you will rise in body or spirit and join us in our closing song, number 407, we're going to sit at the welcome table. And this is a joyful song, so
Let's stand at the welcome table.
let's stand at the welcome table on this one. Last part of our service is our Chalice Extinguishing. If you'll join me in saying the words printed in your order of service. We extinguish this flame, but keep the light of truth, the warmth of community, and the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts, share with all the world. And we have a few announcements. There's actually a so what part in here, but I forgot that I'm downstairs every time we get to this part in the service, so I'm really not sure what so what is about.
Tell them today.
What did I tell you today? I don't know. David, what did I tell y'all today? Do you know what I told you? What did we talk about today?
I think we talked about how much our circle can expand.
How much our circle can expand from the mouth of babes, I need say no more.
Cheater.
We do have a
Communication.
yes. We do have a few announcements today that we need to get through. In an effort to organize and update the main UUCC church calendar, we are asking that all committees, if you are on a committee, please note this, to update the office with your current meeting schedule. Please contact the office by email or by phone so the correct meeting time can be placed on the calendar. Alternatively, if you see a recurring meeting on the calendar that is no longer meeting, please communicate that information as well. Farron and Mandy have been working very hard on this. Also, we are still needing greeters and kitchen and coffee volunteers. Please reach out to Farron in the office at uucc.org if you're interested. Additionally, on the table on the left in the fellowship hall foyer.
You haven't been here in a while.
I haven't been here in a minute. I'm always downstairs. We have some postcards that you can draw and create. Many of you have heard about the quote-unquote Don't Say Gay bill that is going through in Florida right now. And Tennessee. We are actually sending these to, this one particular is going to Florida, but we could send them to Tennessee, Governor. I like that too. Yeah. So these are going, so you can write, and they're examples of what has already been done, and we're going to mail those off to Governor DeSantis. I know that Christian has an announcement, and Reverend Mandy, y'all can paper, rock, scissors it. That's how we do it downstairs.
Ready? See who gets to go first. Ready? Oh, I paper cut. Scissors, pen. I did that. I'm cheated too. I cheated too. Okay, so we are missing y'all. Whether you're off in internet and attending that way, or just haven't been gotten back in the habit of coming to church, the numbers are down. It's time to do some church as fast as we can in case something happens. So just, if you're feeling comfortable, I just want you to know that I really extend a welcome for you to come back, whether you feel comfortable with or without a mask on. But I really think that if we're going to be in this world that we are in, that when the numbers come down like this, every time we have to get doing church. So come on back and volunteer for stuff. There will be wonderful prizes, including, I don't have any prizes, but, you know, including the talent show, which is part of this community, which gives me great honor to introduce Christian.
Good morning, everybody. Yeah, on Friday when was the announcement with the snowstorm and really cold weather, also for Saturday, we made the decision to postpone the talent show by 1 week. So we're gonna have it next Saturday. There's a new thing up there for the March 19th. It's still at 6 p.m. It's still the same approach. At 6 p.m. we're gonna have a finger food buffet. Anybody who's willing to bring some finger food buffet, you can otherwise talk to me afterwards, or you will also might have seen the email from Jen Horning, who's organizing that. And then around 6:45, we're going to transition into our talent show for next Saturday. Just as a reminder, between 4:30 and 5:30, there's a sound check possibility here, so you can come at that time. So we can make sure if you have any unusual requests, please talk to me. Also, it gives you the opportunity. First, you can practice 1 more week. And second, if you thought, well, I should have kind of signed up, now is your chance. You have that 1 more week. Talk to me afterwards. There's also the sign-up sheet right in the middle there. I hope that everybody can come, and Selena has an additional thought. So what Selena is saying is that Selena will be happy to accompany you on the piano. I will be happy to accompany you and the guitar. If you, for example, have a song, we have also people who will speak about their hobbies. We'll have poetry. So we have all type of different things for it. So I apologize that we had to postpone it by a week, and some might not be able to join. So, but we'll definitely, if this one works out well, we're going to do it in a year again. So in order to do it well, come on Saturday or send your family and friends here so that we can all enjoy it together. Thank you.
How much notice do you need for accompaniment? I need more than an hour, please. Yes. Okay, more than an hour.
Okay.
Preferable, let us know by Wednesday. But yeah, for the late bloomers.
And just so you know, for our children and youth, I have put together some really awesome knock-knock jokes that I'm not going to be able to be here, but I'm going to leave them here. Christian will have them, and I bet Reverend Mandy or somebody else from the congregation would love to get up and do knock-knock jokes with you. All right? So if our children and youth want to do them, then those will be ready for you.
Knock, knock, knock.
Who's there?
Orange.
Orange who?
Knock, knock. I always start with banana. See, I always do it backwards.
Banana.
That's why it shouldn't be. Banana.
So what Reverend Mandy will do with you is she will say, who's there? Okay. And that you can do the rest because help us. So I've got some great jokes in there, but you can bring your own too. If you've got a really good joke or a talent that you want to do, you can totally do that. You do not have to do jokes. Any other announcements from the floor that may need to be acknowledged? No? Anything from you, Reverend Mandy? Yes.
Well, we can do it together. All right. So, oddly, we got to do this today, and it's been such a pleasure. And I had not realized you hadn't preached in a human form yet, so that's cool. And I just want to wish you all a great week. If you ever have any interest in getting involved in worship here, there is a wonderful Wowzers committee. And if you need to just like dip your toe in the water and want to do a service with me or one of them, please let us know. It's a lot of fun. And thank you, Steve, today for the music. And I want to just wish you all a wonderful week, and I look forward to seeing you next week.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great week, and please stay for coffee and conversation.